Okay, so let's go back to our data set under variable view. As you can see, the data set we have here has a variable representing years of school. Let's run a frequency command on this variable to see what it looks like. So let's do that now by going to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Frequencies, and we want to click on Years of School. Click on the arrow to bring it to the right. Make sure your Display Frequency Tables is checked, and click OK. So as you can see, our output window is opened and we have a lot of categories here. Just looking at this now, we can see that there are some ways that we can simplify this categorical variable. There are some categories here we might be interested in collapsing. So let's make this more manageable and easier to interpret with a recode. Note that things might be a little bit more complicated this time because there are already predefined value codes. It might be a good idea to collapse those who have less than a high school education, those with a high school education or GED, and those with more than a high school education. So we want to recode our education variable or our years of school variable into a categorical variable representing only 3 categories. Before we start our recode, we'll have to see what the value codes are. Let's check the variable view to see how education is coded here. So let's go back to our variable view pane, and we're interested in seeing how years of school is coded. So we'll click on the values column for years of school. You can click on the call button on the right. And as you can see, we have a lot of categories here. Each one is number coded from 0 to 17. Now looking at this now, we can see that 0 to 9 represents those with less than a high school education, as 9 represents 12th grade and no diploma, and 8 through 0 represent less than that. You can see that 10 represents high school graduate, diploma, or GED. We want to let that category remain, although we may change the value code. But everything from 11 and up will want to collapse, representing higher than a high school education. So now that we know this, we can X out of this window. So to start our recode, we want to go to Transform. Remember, we want to recode into different variables. Our last recode is still in there, so the first thing we want to do is remove it. And then we want to place our years of school completed variable into our input window. And so let's name this variable new underscore edu. And we can label it new education variable. And then click change. So let's click on old and new values. You'll notice that our last recode commands are still in there, so we want to remove those. So how you remove them is you click on each command, each line here, highlight it, and then just click remove. I'm going to do the rest here. And now we can start recoding our education variable. So recall that we wanted to recode our educational variable into a categorical variable with 3 categories: less than high school diploma or GED, and more than high school. We're going to number these different categories from 0 to 2. So let's start with the first one. Let's select range lowest through value. We know that those who were coded 9 or less had less than a high school diploma or GED, so let's just type in 9 under range lowest through value, and we want the new value to be 0, and let's click add. Now our high school diploma option, we know that the original high school diploma or GED category was coded as 10. So that's really just one number we want to code into a new value. So we'll have to go up to our values button here to just enter one number here, which is 10. And then our new value code is 1. We want to click on add. And then we want more than high school to be our final code. So since we know that the range is going to be 11 and up, we can just select the range value through highest button. Type in 11. And we want to recode this new value to 2. Click on add. And we're done. Now click on OK. And again, you'll notice that our output window has come up. Our recode command is displayed at the bottom. We know that 10 for high school and GED equals 1. Lowest through 9 now equals 0. And 11 through highest equal 2. And we can see that it has recoded our new variable into new edu with the label new education variable. So let's go back to our data editor window, and now we can see that our new education variable has been added. But again, we want to make changes to this new variable in our variable view window. So let's bring down the decimal places to 0 again by clicking under the decimal column for our new education variable. Click on the arrows until they get to 0. And now we need to define the value labels for our new recoded variable. So recall that 0 represented less than high school, 1 represented high school diploma or GED, and 2 represented those having more than a high school diploma or GED. So let's do that now. So let's type in 0 under values, and let's just label it less than HS. We can click on add. Let's type in our value code for high school diploma or GED. We want to label this HS/GED. Click on add. We want to put in our final value code of 2, more than high school or GED. And then click add. Click on OK. And you'll notice that the value codes have been placed under the values column of our new education variable. As before, let's check the frequency by clicking on Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Frequencies. So we want to get our old years of school out of there. And we want to input our new education variable. Make sure that the Display Frequency Tables is checked, and click OK. So as you can see, our new education variable has been created. Our frequency table looks pretty good. There doesn't seem to be any errors. We seem to have a good listing of categories, and you should now know how to recode categorical variables as well as continuous variables. Oftentimes the decisions you make will depend on a number of factors. Sometimes it'll depend on the meaning of the different categories in your variable. Other times it will depend on the number of cases you have under each category. But whatever the case, recoding variables can be very useful and offers many options for statistical analysis. This concludes the Recode tutorial of the SPSS training series.